What's up everyone, welcome to another weekly Golden Vendor review. I'm Darth Santos and today we'll be diving into offerings from both the Coldharbour and Cyrodiil Golden Vendors. Now whether you're looking to enhance your PvE or PvP builds, I'll be covering everything you need to know from where to farm these sets, if you need any sort of DLCs or base game to get access to these sets, and as well as which classes and builds these items are best suited for. So let's get started. Now for those that are not familiar with the Golden Vendor, is a special merchant that shows up in Coldharbour and in Cyrodiil from Fridays through Sundays, very limited time only with very special, unique, either furnishing items or set pieces. As towards where you can find a Golden Vendor, our first Golden Vendor is right in Coldharbour outside of Tamriel, in the Hollow City, in front of the bank, and right in Sandhills Luxury's good area. Now this Golden Vendor focuses on furnishing items. Now this week it seems that we're focusing on Halloween theme items because there's a lot of death theme items in here, a lot of Daedric theme items, a lot of torture theme items as well. Now this is a very niche theme because unless you have a home in Coldharbour or in the Deadlands, a lot of people try to make their homes feel more cozy, and this is the opposite of that. Now I do see some of these items fetch a very high resale value, specifically with the smaller items. With Halloween right around the corner, I do see a lot of people actually wanting to start theming their houses with that Halloween theme, with skeletons around their homes, etc. But I don't see a lot of resale value for the higher items, because these higher ticket items, for example, this Iron Maiden occupied 100k. There's better furnishing you can find for your homes, but as for example this skeleton remain is actually pretty good for reselling. With Halloween right around the corner, this specific piece right here will actually have a very high resale value because I would see people actually putting this outside of their homes. But now with the vampiric tables, these might fetch a little bit higher, anywhere between 50 to 60 to probably even 70k. Now there's a lot of characters out there that are vampire characters, and these players might want to theme their home to match their character, so that way their vampire can feel right at home. So these would actually fetch pretty high, so I definitely recommend fetching one of these if you're planning to resell and make some extra gold. But besides that, I don't have much to say about this week's Golden Vendor. I'm not too impressed, but let me know what your thoughts on this in the comments, and hopefully next week we have better stuff. As for our second Golden Vendor, you can find them in Cyrodiil. Now, in order for you to get there, you actually have to go to Campaigns in the menu bar option, and then from there you go to Cyrodiil. In Cyrodiil, you select the campaign you want to be able to join in, and then you just queue in for the campaign. Once you queue in for the campaign, it's going to take you directly to Cyrodiil. And now, Cyrodiil is based off your alliance. Now, this is a PvP area, but you don't actually have to go deep inside of Cyrodiil to find these Golden Vendors. Now, if you are in the Ebonheart pack, you're actually going to find a Golden Vendor right in the Southern Morrowind Gate. And then if you're in the Altmerry Dominion, you're going to be able to find a Golden Vendor right in Eastern Elsewhere Gate. And for those that are in the Daggerfall Covenant, you can actually find your Golden Vendor up in the Northern High Rock Gate. Now let's go over the Golden Vendor in Cyrodiil, because the first item we actually have is the Elegant Ring. Now the Elegant Ring is actually part of the Queen's Elegance set, which can be farmed in Auradon, specifically from overland bosses, public dungeon bosses, and treasure chests. This set is part of the base game, so you don't need any DLCs to be able to obtain it. Me personally, I would save my resources, specifically that there's better sets in the game than this. You get some extra weapon and spell damage and maximum magic added to your character, and then also you get some buffs with your light attacks, and this will be great for a build that is primarily focused on PvE, ideal for Magicka builds, and the best class it will work for, it's Magicka Sorcerers, Magicka Templars. This is good as a starter set, but there's better sets in the game than this. So me personally, I wouldn't recommend you spending your resources, especially 125k on this specific ring. It doesn't make any sense at all. Now moving on to the next item, we actually have the Ice Furnace Ring, which comes from the Dire Frost Keep dungeon. Now this dungeon is part of the base game, so you don't need any DLCs to get it. It gives us a little bit of a critical damage, weapon and spell damage, and then when you deal frost damage, you deal an additional 1476 flame damage to all enemies. So it has a lot of AoE. It's good for PvE setups, but there's better sets in the game. So again, since this is part of the base game, you don't need any DLCs. Me personally, I would just rather farm this than spending 200k on this specific item. That's a lot of money, so it's another item that I'll definitely pass on. Now our next set is actually the Ring of the Dragon, where you can actually farm this from Fanglair Dungeon, which is part of the Dragon Bones DLC. Now this actually is good for PvE tank builds, offering a mix of offensive and defensive bonuses. Now this would be great for a Dragon Knight tank or even a Warden tank, but again, this is actually going to be a free DLC that you're going to be able to obtain in the month of September, so anybody's going to be able to get the chance to farm this. And because of the fact that it's going to be a free DLC, I recommend you saving up your resources, since you can actually just go in there and farm it and just enjoy the beauty of this DLC itself, the storyline, the quest line. So I recommend passing on this, saving up your resources for something better, especially that there's better sets out there than this particular one. Now moving into the last set, we actually have Storm's Master's Ring, where you can actually farm this in Tempest Island Dungeon. It's part of the base game located in Malabator, and this is actually a great set for PvP, particularly for builds focused on critical strikes and burst damage. This will work great for any sort of magical or stamina character that can capitalize on the critical damage bonuses provided by this set, making it ideal for high burst PvP setups. But given the fact that, again, this is an item that you can actually obtain in the base game, me personally, I would rather pass on this, because you're spending 200k or 275 alliance points. It's definitely a lot of resources that you need to use to obtain this particular item. And me personally, I would just rather recommend for you to actually farm it, especially that if you do make it to, yellow, it's not really going to change the fact that you're making still 1,542 damage to monsters. Now moving into our monster sets, that's a pass for me. Nightmare Cops, where actually you can farm this in the Unhallowed Grave Dungeon, which is part of the Harrow Storm DLC. Now, given the fact that this is a DLC item, if you don't have the DLC and just the base game, then I recommend you picking it up for 100k. It's not that bad, especially for you to start filling up your sticker book. But again, this build is actually tailored for PvE DPS builds that focus on single target damage. This would suit Magicka Nightblades or Magicka Sorcerers as well, as they can easily trigger the set's effects with their abilities. Now for those that do have ESO Plus or do own the DLC, I recommend you skipping on this particular piece, and the reason why is because if you're going to be running a mythical item, with just wearing one of these pieces, you're only getting 121 weapon and spell damage, so it wouldn't make sense for you to actually sacrifice the bonuses and the perks of running a mythical versus running, the two monster pieces for Kjalnar's Nightmare. So for that particular reason, I would definitely pass personally myself. But if you don't have it and you only have the base game, then I recommend you picking it up. For our final monster piece, we actually have Valkyn Skoria's Arncots, where you can actually farm this in City of Ash too. Now this dungeon is part of the base game, and this is one of the best monster pieces out there for PvP, because you can summon a huge meteor that deals 7,899 flame damage to the target and 2,774 flame damage to all enemies within 5 meters. Now this is great for PvP. It's also good for some PvE content, but a lot of people actually use this more for PvP. Now again, if you have the base game, this is probably one of the best monster sets to obtain out there. And if you're running this with other sets, like for example Mother Sorrows or Mother Embrace, depending if you're a Magicka or stamina character, this will deal a lot of critical damage, and you're also dealing a lot of offensive penetration. So I definitely recommend picking this up if you haven't. Now, given the fact that you can still farm this with the base game, be particularly mindful about that. Do you really want to spend the resources, or do you want to just go out there and spend hours farming? It's really up to you, so be mindful about that. And that wraps up the Golden Vendor review for this week. So whether you're a PvE dungeon crawler or a PvP battleground brawler, there's something here for everyone, so make sure to hit up the Golden Vendor this weekend to grab these powerful items and furniture sets, and take your build or your house to the next level. Now, don't forget to also comment, what are your thoughts so far? I want to know what you're thinking about the Golden Vendor. Are you disappointed with what we're seeing so far in the last couple of weeks? Are you happy with what you're getting? I want to know what your comments are, your thoughts. And again, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more ESO content. Again, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in Tamriel.